December 26, 1900. A relief ship approaches a lighthouse on a tiny, wind-battered island. 3 keepers are supposed to be waiting on the jetty. Nobody is there. No flag raised, no smoke from the chimney. No answer to the ship's whistle, blown again and again across the water. What the landing party found inside that lighthouse would become one of the most disturbing unsolved mysteries in maritime history. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why nobody has ever been able to explain it. This is the Flannan Isles lighthouse mystery. The Flannan Isles are 7 small islands, nearly 20 miles off the coast of Scotland. Supply ships could only land there when the sea allowed it, sometimes weeks apart. Locals called the largest island Eilean Moor, and for centuries they avoided it. Shepherds who grazed sheep there refused to stay overnight. Fishermen changed course to keep their distance. The island was said to be haunted, watched by something that didn't want visitors staying past dark. In 1899, engineers ignored the warnings and built a lighthouse anyway. 3 keepers were assigned in rotation, living in near-total isolation for weeks at a time. James Duckett, the principal keeper, was a steady, experienced man with years of service. Thomas Marshall was younger, but reliable, well regarded by everyone who worked with him. Donald MacArthur was described by other keepers as tough, unshakable, a man who simply didn't scare easily. On December 15th, a passing ship noticed the lighthouse lamp wasn't lit. That alone was alarming. Keepers never let the light fail. But brutal winter weather delayed any response for 11 full days. When the relief boat finally reached the island on the 26th, the silence was immediate and wrong. No keepers on the landing to help unload supplies, something that was always done without exception. The captain sent men ashore to investigate. Inside the lighthouse, the clock had stopped. The beds were neatly made. A chair lay overturned on the floor, knocked back hard, as if someone had stood up too fast. A half-eaten meal sat on the table, untouched for what looked like days. 2 of the 3 oilskin coats were missing from their hooks by the door. The 3rd coat, Donald MacArthur's, the toughest of the 3, was still hanging exactly where it should be. The men searched every room, every storage space, the lighthouse tower itself. No bodies, no note, no sign of a struggle beyond that single overturned chair. 3 experienced men had simply vanished from a rock in the middle of the Atlantic. A massive search followed. Boats combed the surrounding waters for days. Other lighthouse keepers up and down the coast were questioned. Not one clue turned up, not a scrap of clothing, not a single body ever recovered. Then investigators found the logbook, and that's where this gets stranger. The final entries described a violent storm battering the island. Waves crashing clean over cliffs more than 60 meters high. Wind so strong the men could barely stand upright outside. James Duckett's handwriting grew tighter and more anxious with every entry. On the final page, someone had written that Donald MacArthur had been crying. Investigators pulled the official weather records for that exact week. There had been no storm. Regional conditions were logged as calm. So what exactly were 3 experienced keepers describing, in writing, days before they vanished? Robert Muirhead, the investigator, wrote in private notes that the scene deeply unsettled him. The theories started almost immediately, and every single one collapses under its own weight. Some said a rogue wave swept all 3 men off the rocks while securing equipment outside. The West Landing, 60 meters above sea level, did show genuine storm damage. A supply box smashed apart, ropes torn loose, iron railings bent flat. Something violent really did happen there, just apparently not during a week the logs call calm. Others suggested one keeper snapped, killed the other 2, and then took his own life. That theory requires a body, a weapon, some evidence of a struggle. None of it was ever found. It doesn't explain why 2 coats were missing, but MacArthur's was left hanging untouched. There's a theory involving a foreign spy or a passing vessel taking the men by force. There's no record of any ship near those islands that week, and no ransom, no trace ever surfaced. And then there's what the islanders had been saying for generations before the lighthouse was built. That Eilean Moor doesn't like to be watched. That something out there has taken people before, quietly, without leaving anything behind. If you're the type who needs a satisfying ending here, I have to disappoint you. There genuinely isn't one. The case is officially, permanently closed as unexplained. Subscribe now, because next week's case is even harder to explain than this one. The story became so well known that in 1912, a poet wrote a ballad about it. Called Flannan Isles, imagining the search party's dread as they stepped inside that empty lighthouse. It's still read and quoted today, well over a century later. The lighthouse itself still stands. It was automated in 1971. No keeper has to spend the night there anymore. Visitors say the West Landing still feels wrong, that the wind sounds different there. 3 men, 1 tiny, remote island in the North Atlantic. Not one single trace of what actually happened to them. To this day, the case remains officially, permanently unsolved. What do you think really happened on Eilean Moor? Tell me your theory in the comments below.